and gamers, Matt Lemke here with Through Gamer Goggles, gamer-goggles.com. And today we have another flip through for you. This one's on Pathfinder's Bestiary 5. And it's laid out just like almost every other bestiary is. You've got your table of contents with everything here, and then you have your alphabetical listing of monsters. Now this book does a few different things. Well, as you might suspect, it lists new monsters and has some new templates. But where I was going with this is that I know there's some new dragons in here that they stand out to me after my full read of the book. There's new familiars in the book, and my favorite is actually the Flying Fox. And we'll get into that in a little bit. And then there's some new character options and a couple of new templates as well. And we're just going to start by going right through. And the first thing that I wanted to talk about is, well, actually, that's probably my favorite picture in the whole book. I don't know why. I can't tell you exactly why. I think it's the blue that makes me like this. I don't really care for the sword as much, but the whole concept of the silver and the blue, I really do like that. But the first creature I would like to talk to is a Clockwork Familiar, and this would work with your improved familiar feat. And the reason why I like this, actually, out of all the familiars and other things that you could possibly do with this book for familiars, is the fact that they're a low CR, they're easy to make, but it's scalable. Like this Clockwork Familiar right here is worth 14,500 gold. It requires, obviously, construct, quest to make whole. The creator must be at least 12th level to make this one this work. But the reason why I really like it is because we're actually playing an Eberron campaign, and this type of thing hits home right now. So it just really, I was like, oh, how cool. And yeah, our Eberron campaign is a homebrew mix of Pathfinder and D&D, but we take what we want from just about anywhere and make it happen. So that's something that my GM is probably going to use. And then the next thing is the Dark Folk, or the Caligny. Now these are kind of neat because they're the first, well, I don't know if they're the first one in the book or not, but they're a possible player character option. And what they do is, they're always defined by level. That's pretty much true for any new character race. These guys get +2 dexterity and +2 constitution and -2 to their intelligence. They're basically a forgotten race that lives underground. They can see in the dark. They have light sensitivity. But what I found made them the coolest for me is that when they're slain, their body combusts in searing light, which is really kind of neat. So are you saying that they absorb all the light? I'm not sure, but I like that concept a lot, and I suspect that these will be going into one of my storylines very soon. And then the next thing that comes up is, for me, oops, I passed it already. Actually, I passed it before the Dark Folk. It was actually right after the Clockwork Familiars, and that would be the Corpse Lotus. And the reason why I like this guy is because it's a CR13, which, you know, if you're a GM, I've talked about this before, you can tone that down a little bit if you want, but it's something new, and it's something that if your players need to be made alert or wake up a little bit, the Corpse Lotus can be put into basically any place where there's been a dead body. It's just an anywhere type of creature. I mean, obviously you're going to find them more around battlefields and things like that. It's just a really cool creature that you can throw out there. Now, it is a CR13, so to put it into some lower level stuff, you would have to do a little bit of work. They have an AC of 28, for example, and a strength of 34. So they're pretty strong. And then, like I said, they brought new dragons, and there's a whole bunch of devils in this, by the way. But one of the cooler things I thought was the esoteric dragons. And there's a bunch of them. There's the astral dragon, and this is actually one of the things with all the different dragons in the book that kind of makes me think this book leans towards a planar theme. A lot of these are things that just kind of lend towards the other planes. Now, one of my favorite creatures in the book is another dragon that's not actually listed in this section, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But the next thing was that I wanted to share with you was one of their newer templates, and this is a Mummy Lord. I like the Mummy Lord, well, one, because he's undead, and I fight a lot of undead with my character, and, it's just, mummies are one of those things that are cool. Ever since I've been a kid, I've liked mummies. I've liked, Abbott and Costello, The Mummy Returns, Lon Chaney. I loved all the Lon Chaney movies. So to me, a Mummy Lord is kind of cool, and the concept of the fact that the mummies need a lord tends to make me wonder what kind of doors are going to be opened now with the undead and mummies. Because mummies are pretty destructive. So it's made me do some thinking, like here's a swamp mummy, they're introducing new mummies, more mummies I should say, there's already been others introduced. But it's just one of those things, and actually what's one of the coolest things to me about the Mummy Lord is the scalability and the fact that their special attacks channel negative energy, which is really nothing new, but the Mummy Lord can do it 8 times a day. So that's pretty cool. Channel Rot and Insidious Rot are both parts of that. And then my favorite creature in the whole book is the Rope Dragon. And it's really because the Rope Dragon is a sneaky little creature that breaks into warehouses, and he looks at things. He hides himself as rope. Basically, he camouflages himself with other rope. And I just don't know my alphabet today. And then after this, we'll do a little bit more flip through and talk about some of the other things that stand out or stood out. Oh, well, right there's one of them, actually, the Reptoid. They're kind of a neat creature, and we'll come back to them in a second. Actually, we're real close, so we'll go here. And yeah, I didn't talk about the robots. There's a bunch of robots in the book. Rope Dragon. Here, we'll zoom in so you can get a better look at the picture while I do this. There is the dragon. He kind of coils in and out of the rope. And if you're not paying a lot of attention, he certainly wouldn't be easy to spot. But what's cool about them is they play tricks on people. They have a relatively high intelligence. They do things like hide in a rope. They break into bakeries and things like that and hide and eat very expensive foods from the wealthy. If you feed them, they kind of become your friend because they don't do things like play tricks on you, which is one of the things they do. They're like the Loki of dragons. They're mischievous. They play pranks on people to discourage them from coming around and things of that nature. And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're a small, shape-changing dragon. But one of the cooler things too about this is their breath weapon is a corded breath, which basically they do a 20-foot cone of filament. So they shoot rope strands at you basically, which is kind of neat. Kind of like a cross between a spider and a dragon, I guess. Now, let's see, where are the familiars at? We'll get to the familiars when we get there. They're probably back here. I don't really remember. But the book has lots and lots of options. In fact, let's go back to the Reptoid. Because one of the cool things about the Reptoid is actually the fact that, well, you saw what they looked like. Man, I just am terrible. Oh, look, here's another new template. The Mutant template, which I'm sure that this one is kind of inspired by Eric Mona because he's a huge fan of comic books. And if you look at some of the stuff, if you ever get to look at some of the covers, you can compare them to popular X-Men covers. That was a little secret that he told me in one of our interviews. What am I looking for? Reptoid. And the Reptoid, one of the cool things though is like change shape. The Reptoid assumes the appearance of one specific medium-sized creature. So if you're a Reptoid, I mean, this lends to what I think can be a great story if you're a GM. These guys are infiltrators. There's cults of them that only act as elves. They operate together as elite espionage units. I mean, the story that you can play with these guys is really pretty phenomenal. Other things that stood out, well, the Planked is kind of neat because they are creatures that are formed from islands that have been destroyed. And if you look at it, it kind of looks like a giant, huge, large rock monster. I mean, it is colossal and it's aquatic. It's also earth. So, a strength of 50, armor class of 36. They're pretty tough. At that point in time, I'm not sure you want the treasure. You just want to survive, right? And if you survive, knowing that you beat it is probably good enough. Again, the Mummy Lord. There are some like templates of things in the book where they introduce newer stuff, like the Manasapatra. I hope I said that right. It sounds Egyptian to me. These guys are very closely related in the templates, so there's a very little variance in between them, but they're all unique in their own way, and the newer ones all get like about 2 pages a piece, as you can see. If you take that into account, and you're not going to count those as possible creatures in this bestiary, there's probably around 275 as opposed to the 300 that's listed on. Some of the monsters get 2-page readouts like this one does. What else really stood out? I loved the Hobkin, the Gremlin Hobkin. I have some fun ideas. Grey Goo, new giants, which I didn't talk about before. I have not used too many giants in my games. I'm hoping to change that. New Ghoul. Again, I'm a fan of undead. I probably should have talked about the new Ghoul. These ghouls are a CR10, so they're pretty ghastly. Some of the things that they do, well, they know all knowledge. They have a much more potent bite for paralysis. And Ghoul Fever, which is really kind of funny. One of my friends has instilled that into a game that we've been playing now almost 10 years ago. Ghoul Fever still runs rampant, so he's going to be very interested in borrowing this book from me to add the ghouls to his campaign. And we're getting up there around 5th, 6th, 7th level. Well, okay, the story's been going on for 10 years, not the campaign. Now, familiars. Okay, where's the Flying Fox? The Flying Fox is just cool. XP 135, he's a tiny animal. Of course, the red panda is just adorable, even though this one looks really, really mean. But the Flying Fox has low light vision, scent perception of +9. Only 5 hit points, but AC 13. They have a speed of 10 for flying, and they they moved at 10 feet on the ground and they fly at 60 feet. Now the red panda, where is he? The red panda is cool because they have climb of 20 feet, and they're just kind of, the red pandas are cool. Now there's some new elementals in the book, and again these elementals tend towards being planner in my opinion. Now there are some really cool pictures in here. We've already gone through the dragons. We've seen most of the book. We'll go back here again because, you know, my ADHD is really acting out. We really didn't do anything past the R's. Now, something else that I should note that is kind of neat is the Shadow Collector. The Shadow Collector, well, as the name says, runs around and collects shadows. The picture is really cool. Because, well, you see this little girl, and then you see this big, like, orcish type beast. I'm going to guess that was on a ship at some point in time, because that looks like a wheel. And I'm not sure what that is back there. Maybe it's a goblin, but you get the idea from that picture. That picture says 1,000 words. What else was there? Here's another new race, the Skinwalkers. I think these make great druids because they have change shape. Skinwalker can change shape to a bestial form as a standard action. So if they make, you know, if you turn them into druids, kind of cool. Or any other type of similar class. Here's a storm hag. It looks like she stuck her finger in an electrical outlet, or that might be a he. I'm not really sure. Storm ghosts are kind of interesting, but I kind of left them alone. Some of the other things that are big back here are giant termites. There's some good information on that. The Thought Eater, it was different. Oh, the Constructor was neat just because it introduced these wasp, half bee, half woman type of creatures. And there's actually a few of them. And then they also added the Titan. And then there's even a wisp in the book, and I think that was back here. That was the stuff that was of most interest to me. So, what do I think about Bestiary 5? Well, as a player and a GM, this is something I'll definitely get a lot of use out of. Role players tend to buy books that they don't always use. This book is going to sit on my shelf, I think, for a little bit because I'm just not ready to use some of the things that are in it. There's a handful of things that I can think of using right away as a player. And there's a handful of things that I can think of using right away as a GM. But there are a few months down the road for my story, so they're not ready because, you know, it's new material. I got to be able to work it in. I think it's a good book. Basically, it has a lot of things that lead towards a planner, which is something I haven't really delved into a lot, in my opinion. But there are a lot of other things that can be used just about anywhere. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed my flip through on the Bestiary 5 for Pathfinder role-playing game. Have a good day.